I'm so, I'm so, hi. I usually don't start out laughing. That usually requires some sort of shocking, out of the blue, ridiculous statement. You know, some magical, emotional moment from Greg Kelly or some idiotic statement from Glenn Beck, which we will invariably have today. But today, I've honestly been kind of giggling ever since this news hit hit the wire. Oh boy. So, in case you haven't been following this, there was a grand jury put in place during the Trump years to actually apply the law fairly. And Trump ran interference with it and made sure that they didn't go after his buddy, attorney, and fellow insurrectionist cheerleader, Rudy Giuliani. And apparently, like 8 days after we get a new AG in the new administration, they're like, yeah, you can green light that. I don't even need, it's been sitting there for a while. In a normal universe, he'd have been stepped on last year, but now that he doesn't have Trump running interference for him and he's sort of been cast aside like the coffee boys of old in the Trump world, Giuliani's about to eat you. Okay, so, oh, it's a beautiful story. Federal investigators search Rudy Giuliani's apartment and office, which I don't know. We have no information on whether or not they are fully searching the glory hole.
I like wood.
Or if they're going to look into it
deeper and longer
than anyone could expect, because I don't know that they have a warrant for the glory hole.
What?
If or if even you need that one.
Oh yeah, that's normal.
So
deeper and longer.
Quit it. It's just not right.
I like wood.
We recognize that, as does Rudy. So hopefully they don't scuff any of the furniture when they're going through. They're searching his apartment and his office. And weirdly enough, federal investigators in Manhattan executed search warrants early Wednesday at the home and office of Rudy Giuliani. This is fresh. This is from the morning. Former New York City mayor who became President Donald J. Trump's personal lawyer and, of course, is almost solely responsible for the rise of the Russian and Chinese mob in the New York real estate market, as he helped broom the Italian mob out of the way to make room for them and was rewarded with the mayorship, allegedly. The investigators seized Mr. Giuliani's electronic devices and you mean like did they get both his laptops? Because if you recall, sometimes he's got one. Make sure, guys, investigators, if you don't know, don't believe Rudy. He has 2 iPads and a phone. If you just find one iPad, it's not enough. There are more things. And his son, since he took over the editing of the show, has a lot of Rudy's devices. His old ones, and I guess the ones they used to set up the story or what have you. And of course, we do know that Rudy's old school, so don't forget to get all of his paper notes I'm sure he has them in a folder that they'll be easy to spot. They're the ones with like hair dye goo, spray on hair dye goo on the edges of it. So yes. Oh, we're getting to Victoria Tensing and Joe DeGeneva as well. Because, okay. The execution of search warrants is an extraordinary action for prosecutors to take against a lawyer, let alone a lawyer for a former president. Yeah, you think they crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's last year? And yet, had not the former president been protecting his buddy? Okay. It was a major development, a long-running investigation into mystery. Long-running. I thought this was supposed to be some sort of instant deep state stir up that Biden started just because it's a grudge, and that's how people in power act. I would have never thought that this was an investigation that had gone on legitimately within the halls of the Department of Justice, and it just somehow magically not been fully investigated, while his boss was my oh my. As mayor, Mr. Giuliani won national recognition for, quote, steering New York through the days after this. He didn't steer shit. He moved the emergency response headquarters to the Twin Towers after the first bombing had happened already. He's a jackass. He just happened to be there when everybody was emotional. And early in his career, he led the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan and is investigating him now, earning a reputation as a hard-charging prosecutor who took on organized crime and corrupt politicians, as long as they weren't Russian or Chinese-backed, in which case they got a pass. Weirdly, that's odd. In recent years, however, his image has been sullied by his effort to help Mr. Trump to dig up dirt in the Ukraine on you mean buy fake evidence? And to overpay for it. They were only charging $3 million and they paid $5 million for it? Why? And Mr. Trump's repeated attempts in court to overturn the results of the 2020. By the way, how's that Arizona recount going? I noticed it like Rachel did like 2 nights on kind of covering it or whatever, you know, because this is lunacy and weird. And the right wing that was like, Maddow freaks out, truth will come out in Arizona. And the only thing she was really covering was the fact that the people who were working on the recount were using pens that could alter ballots. Once they stopped using them, nobody gave a shit anymore because everybody knows what the recount's going to be like. It's a little, I think the one piece of news is that these folks had the ability to change ballots. Once you take that power away from them and recognize, by the way, that they hadn't gotten through shit. They got through like 1 box in 2 days. And they had crates of these things that they really couldn't do any real damage. Now nobody gives a shit. They're just going to let it play out. And oh my God, don't get me wrong. There's lots of right-wingers. We could dive into all the people who think this is going to, you know, this is God's work at Arizona, but I don't really give a shit. So, this Robert Costello, because that's, you want a lawyer with an old-timey comedian's name, which is Giuliani's lawyer, a lawyer's lawyer, a man's man, a comedian's comedian, called the searches unnecessary because his client had offered to answer prosecutors' questions. He just wasn't going to turn over his phones and his 2 iPads. Remember, not 1, not 2. And don't forget, search the glory hole.
I like wood.
All right. What they did today was legal thuggery. You really going to use like coded racial language? Like, I mean, I guess that works with the audience that they're working with, right? Were all the FBI agents that raided the office, were they all black? Do they all have hip-hop tattoos? Are we all supposed to... What was the dead giveaway that they were thugs? Nose rings? What's the panic about, Rudy? Why would you do this to anyone, let alone someone who was the Associate Attorney General, United States Attorney, the Mayor of New York City, and the personal lawyer of the 45th President of the United States? I don't know. Richard Nixon? Fuck off. Why would you do this to anyone who should be, in my estimation, as his personal lawyer, above the law? I should be able to earn money as his attorney without ever having to earn money as his attorney. FBI agents on Wednesday morning also executed a search warrant at the Washington area home of Victoria Tensing, a lawyer close to Mr. Giuliani. Ew. And who had dealings with several Ukrainians involved in seeking negative information on the Bidens, according to people with knowledge of that warrant, which sought her phone. By the way, if you will recall, why would the feds want to take Rudy Giuliani's electronic devices? Well, those of you that have been longtime watchers of this show and have gone through as many of Rudy's Common Sense episodes as we have, and watched him admit to crimes on the air regularly, not the least of which is the possession of and sleeping with child porn, because according to Rudy Giuliani, this laptop of Hunter's, which he, by having it in his possession for a long period of time, ruined the chain of evidence and nullified it. If there is a single crime on the Hunter Biden laptop, a legit one, all legal claim that it can be used in a court of law is worthless. Not because it may not have been evidence of a genuine crime, but because Rudy Giuliani kept it to himself for weeks/months on end, eked out little bits of the information, and kept no chain of custody. It's like if you found a smoking gun at a murder scene. This is giving him the benefit of the doubt that it's not 100% absolute, contrived, Photoshop and filtered and bullshit, fake evidence. Like, even this is just giving him like the benefit of the doubt that there's a hair's breadth of normalcy, crack pictures and phone pictures of Hunter having sex with people on his phone, that kind of stuff. Let's give him that sliver that's real. This is the equivalent. Rudy's handling of the laptop is the equivalent of you find a smoking gun at a murder scene, you take it home, you send a picture of it to the news, you wash it, you handle it a bunch, and you sleep with it under your pillow, because that's what he said he did with the hard drive. We saw this interview. We all watched him say he sleeps with it, which is beyond creepy, since he said there was uncomfortable pictures of what are underage girls on it, which there aren't, but that was his estimation of it. I guess he had to watch it several times. I've seen every frame of this disgusting filth 5 or 6 times, and it's morally reprehensible. But you'll recall Rudy saying that he, in his, beyond the, it's not mine, it's his, beyond any kind of claims that what's actually on that hard drive or actually on that laptop, which cannot be trusted because, unless you look at the metadata and say, oh yeah, Hunter was in this location at this moment, took this picture, it is of him, it has not been photoshopped, no one downloaded it onto the hard drive from another source, which would all show up if you investigate it, which the FBI did, and that's why they have it, and they didn't go arrest Hunter Biden under the Trump administration. Because they went, oh, the metadata doesn't line up. This is garbage. This asshole has been shopped something, and now he's shopping it to the media in an attempt to manipulate the election on behalf of a Russian sock puppet from Ukraine who's trying to seize power back and help Russia destroy the Ukraine as a sovereign country. That Rudy Giuliani's basically on the tit of that, and so during this time, it's not mine, it's his, which I'm sure Rudy Giuliani would absolutely support if it was a murder suspect with a gun in his car or a drug trafficker with drugs found in his suitcase. That's not my shit. That's Gary's. I never even saw it. I'm holding it for him. This is evidence. I was going to give it to you guys, right? I'm sure Rudy Giuliani as a prosecutor would absolutely be completely forgiving to any defendant in a situation who's using the Rudy Giuliani excuse for keeping what he says is a hard drive that has naked pictures of underage girls and, at the very least, naked pictures of the current president's son having sex with other adult women consensually under his pillow. So, I can't imagine why they would go in there and scoop up his hard drive and his phones and all of his electronic devices because of his lying about being an unregistered foreign agent as he worked with the president of the United States. Hilarious. So, this is just, now, I figured what would be good to look at, and by the way, let me do this real quick. Let me see if I can find a picture of Geneva and Victoria Tensing, White House. So these folks, this is 2019. Okay, yeah. So, but in case you don't know, this is Victoria Tensing and Joe diGenova, okay? And they were Trump's, they were Sidney Powell before Sidney Powell in some ways. They were the ones that stuck around. Remember, he brought them on in late 2018, early 2019, whatever. Forget Rudy. Here's Trump's fiercest defenders. Trump chose not to hire lawyers Joseph Geneva and Victoria Tenzing, but they are playing the role of lawyers on TV, DeGeneva says. So remember they went to the White House and they had this thing and they're like, oh, yeah, they're great. And then they left and he was like, okay, Rudy's in charge. But you'd be forgiven for thinking they're billing Trump by the hour since a plan for the husband and wife duo to represent the president was announced and then aborted. The lawyer pundits have appeared on at least 37 times on Fox News alone. Even as Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, acts as a kind of emissary to mainstream news outlets from Politico, he was getting kicked off, by the way. They all lost their kind of toehold because they wouldn't go on. They couldn't stop themselves from lying. And not that Fox gives a crap if you come on and lie, but they were doing it in a way that was going to get them sued. So it was concerning. But anyways, so these folks, this lovely lady got her Washington, D.C. home raided as well today. I don't know when they're going to hit his place or if they just assume that the stuff is there. But yeah, so just in case you don't know. All right. So I thought we'd go back real quick today and this is the latest video that Rudy Giuliani posted on his Rumble site, which is under Common Sense. It's his channel, and this is his appearance on Newsmax. He just posted this one recently, April 13th. He posted this one, but it was one from October 2020, and this was when he kept showing the same 6 pages of documents, holding up a piece of paper of someone else's alleged text messages. Like, you can't make something like that in friggin' Keynote, much less in Photoshop, much less in just get back and forth and text someone, what you want to see, and then copy the picture of it, and then change the numbers. I mean, there is no there. And if you wanted to be there, if this was legitimate evidence, you wouldn't touch it at all. You'd go, please, we found this. I'm not looking at it. I'm not even opening it anymore. We saw whatever. You guys handle it. It's like saying I walked in, there were bodies there, there was a murder weapon, there was a sword sticking out of one of the victims, there was a gun on the ground, and I thought it would be best if I lick everything and stomp around the room just to make sure the floor was solid. You know what I mean? Like, this asshole couldn't not put and here's why you would do it. Can I just explain to you why Rudy Giuliani's fingerprints are all over the evidence against Hunter Biden, and why the hard drive had to stay in his hands, and why he always had to have it with them and a copy of it, and he'd only give out parts of it. You know why? The same reason why, if you murdered those people, if you had stuck that sword into that dead body and you had shot those people with that smoking gun, you would tell the police, well, yeah, I touched it, I brought it here. Oh, rats, I got my fingerprints all over it. Because they were your fingerprints to begin with. That's why you do that. And if an average dumbass stumbles across a murder scene, thinks there's oil on the ground, slips, and ends up covered in the victim's blood, but their fingerprints aren't on the gun, aren't on the knife, aren't on the noose, aren't on the wrench, aren't on the lead pipe, whatever room in the library or in the, wherever the murder was actually committed. If they're just covered in the blood and they walk out and go, I slipped and I fell, or I checked for a pulse, my fingers are on the person's neck because I was seeing if they were alive, but I didn't touch anything else, that's an average person at least knows to do that, right? When the average person in a court proceeding says, I don't know, I pulled the knife out of their head to see if they were alive, and I went around the room because I was scared, and then I found the gun, and I got my fingerprints and my blood all over it. I cut myself picking up the knife, and I got my blood inside the barrel of the gun. Like, you'd go, okay, fucker, you killed these people, and you've just been walking around creating an orgy of evidence for us because you're a moron. When somebody like Rudy Giuliani does this, prints out pieces of this, keeps the hard drive to themselves, only goes on, and then their idea of showing you evidence is holding up a piece of paper going, we found this box if you'll recognize, this is obvious, we found this in there, that's not evidence. It's a wag. This is and again, if it was an average person or even a above average person, you would know better. We've all seen enough crime shows to know that if you actually stumble upon a crime scene, except for trying to resuscitate someone, you don't go anywhere near any of this stuff. You don't try to leave footprints. You don't, like, all that stuff. Dude was a prosecutor. He ran the DA's office that's going after him. He has to know this shit. Oh, it's adorable. And by the way, orgy of evidence is an actual term, just in case you don't know. All right, so this is Rudy talking about the Hunter Biden laptop. And let's see if you can pick why federal investigators would think there was something sketchy as shit about how he talks about this stuff, how he handles it, and where he keeps it. And we'll see if Greg Kelly, if Rudy can't help but mention black people and Greg Kelly doesn't need to be dragged to a fainting couch.
Hi, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
You've seen the story by now, or
maybe you haven't, because the mainstream media is hiding the... All right.
maybe you haven't, because big tech is trying to censor it. But Hunter...
But we're little tech. Nobody gives a shit about Newsmax. We're the little turd that could.
Biden's hard drive has been discovered, turned over to Rudy Giuliani.
No. Citation needed. There is no reason for me to believe any of this shit. That Hunter Biden's anything was discovered, that it was a real hard drive, that it belonged to him, that when it was found, it was handed over to Rudy in its entirety and the version that's being passed on. You see how the chain of evidence works? You don't think Rudy Giuliani knows this shit?
And, well, the rest is not yet history, because...
It's about to be history, because it's going to be the first time the former mayor of New York goes down for being a Ukrainian Russian sock puppet.
Well, people don't know if they want to really look at this stuff, and they're not asking Joe Biden about it. By the way, he's not denying it. Huh? All right? Remember that.
See, Trump denied all of his sexual assault things, and he said the women were too ugly for him to fondle in the first place. So clearly, that is our metric for truth.
No significant real denial from the Biden campaign. A lot of non-denials. But let's go through it. Some dynamite stuff in here.
Yes, dynamite. Let's go through it. Let's see it.
We're hearing from Rudy Giuliani in the New York Post. They have Hunter's hard drive.
No, they don't. They have a hard drive provided to them by Rudy Giuliani. Do we want to talk about reality, or are we talking about a narrative?
They have reported that there's that thank you note from a senior Burisma executive thanking Hunter for setting up a meeting with Vice President Joe Biden.
That's weird. So there's a thank you note in it. Let's see. Could it possibly be... Now, how in the world could there possibly be information related to, oh, good Lord. Well, I can see how any emails or anything that came out of Burisma would have to be completely legit, and no one could possibly think that they're anything other than completely... By the way, when the Russians hacked the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, I'm sorry, is it... I screwed up. Is it pronounced... It's spelled Burisma. The people who work there call it Burisma. I understand it's a translated word, but sometimes those pronunciations...
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
Do they? Because I don't actually... I think the R and the M are in the absolute wrong order in that...
Burmese.
Yeah, I don't know... The M comes after the S and the I. Is there any...
The company that his son worked for, that's Burisma.
Burmisma. Oh, it's Burmisma. Well, shit. What was the son's company again?
The company that his son worked for, that's Burisma.
Burmisma. So Hunter Biden worked for Burisma. Office in Kyiv of subsidiary Ukrainian Burisma. Burisma. Well, shit, I think we're talking about the wrong thing. Right? That's not the... Maybe that's the confusion. Oh, it's guys, it's been an innocent mistake this whole time. Because apparently Hunter Biden worked for Burisma and Trump thinks that he worked for another company called
Burisma,
which is a totally different two different companies. One company called
Burisma,
and another one
the
called
company that his son worked for. That's Burisma.
Burisma. Right. Okay. So I maybe that's sorry. I'm sorry. Fun with geography.
To me, Corona means Italy.
All right. So with President Trump facing an impeachment trial over his efforts to pressure Ukraine, then boring in the Ukrainian gas company, the Senator Fair, the hacking attempts against Burisma. Is that really how it's hacking attempts against
Burisma?
Yeah, the Ukrainian gas company on whose board Hunter Biden served began in early November. As talk of the Biden's Ukraine impeachment was dominating the news in the United States, it's not clear what the hackers found or precisely what they were searching for. Here's your problem. They weren't searching for anything. They were putting stuff in there. That's what they do. They take what they can and they plant shit. They did that when they were looking for vaccine information. All the vaccine hacking, they were like, not only did they take information, they put in fake information so that it would screw up our search for a vaccine, in theory. But, you know, I mean, maybe they hacked into the wrong company.
Burisma.
All right, so, but the experts say the timing and scale of the attack suggest the Russians could be searching for potentially embarrassing material on the Bidens. What, they couldn't just call Rudy? Apparently, oh, this is after, I see. The same kind of information that Mr. Trump wanted from Ukraine when he pressed for an investigation, setting off a chain of events that led to his impeachment and the magic hard drive that shows up at the office of a Fox psychologist who was drugging and raping his patients and lost his license and his job and is, I guess, going to jail. And then magically ended up at another, they built a whole other story about the repair shop. Then, as now, Russian hackers from military intelligence known as the GRU and to private researchers by the alias Fancy Bear. Hello. I don't know if we need to have some sort of Fancy Bear sound.
What?
All right. Use so-called phishing emails that appear designed to steal usernames and passwords, according to Area 1, the Silicon Valley security firm that detected the hacking. In this instance, the hackers set up fake websites that mimic sign-in pages of Burisma subsidiaries and have been blasting Burisma employees with emails meant to look like they are coming from inside the company. So you immediately go, oh shit, I gotta go in. And they sign into the wrong website and they've entered in their password, and then by the time they've already gotten in and they've reassigned your password and you can't change it, and then they start messing around there. Hackers fooled some of them into handing over login credentials, managed to get inside one of Burisma's servers. I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing it. How is that pronounced again?
To me, Corona means Italy.
No, dummy, the
Burisma
right, Burmisa.
executives. So this Burisma,
Burmisia.
they say,
Burmisia.
pronounce it Burisma.
Burmisia. Sorry, okay, Burmisia servers. The attacks were successful at Burmisia, said Oren Falkowitz, co-founder of Area 1, who previously served the NSA. Mr. Falkowitz's firm maintains a network of sensors on web servers around the world known as state-sponsored hackers, which gives the firm a front-row seat to phishing attacks and allows them to block attacks on their customers. The timing of the Russian campaign mirrors the GRU hacks we saw in 2016 against the DNC and John Podesta, again, where they not only took stuff, they put stuff. The Clinton campaign chairman, Mr. Falkowitz, said, once again, they are stealing email credentials in which they can only assume is a repeat of Russian interference in the last election. Huh. But wouldn't it be terrible if they had someone kind of helping them and participating in their ability to hack, take your emails, add 2 sentences to it, take, your credentials for other stuff, add things. That's the thing about hacking. Everybody thinks it's a one-way street, that it's just theft. Think of it this way. Your goal is not to rob a jewelry store wholly. Your job is also to put them out of business. So when you break in, you don't steal all of their diamonds. What you do is you replace a lot of their diamonds. You steal some, but you replace a lot of their diamonds with fake diamonds. And so people go in there later and buy shit, and it takes them a few months to realize, oh my God, I've been sold a fake, which undermines that business. And if you're in the diamond business, you now get to sell their diamonds, and you get to benefit from the fact that their diamond business is no longer competing with yours. Okay? Get how that works? I don't know why everybody thinks hacking is just stealing shit. Sometimes there isn't anything to steal. So and especially in politics, what you want to do is put stuff on, on there. That's the easiest way. So just letting you know. All right.
That's exactly the kind of thing that Joe Biden promised everybody was not happening. There's that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's real. Okay, would you like me, Greg Kelly, would you like me to type up a piece of paper that says Greg, thanks for calling me after your broadcast the other night. I passed along to a friend your suggestions. I don't think lynching is a great idea as far as our legal system goes in the modern era, but I can understand why you were screaming about it because you obviously are very passionate. Thanks for the call. There's nothing I can really do for you. And then I post that picture. And then you go, I didn't write that. Yeah, you did. I have a copy of it. I didn't send it. Well, prove it. I can't prove a negative. Why not? It's an email. Go look in your server. What's on your server, Greg Kelly? Greg Kelly, why won't you show me your server that proves that you didn't send me a pro-lynching email? What happened to the server? What happened to it? Where is it? Why are you hiding it, Greg Kelly? See what I mean? See how easy that is? Fuck, people are dumb.
Also, there's an email outlining a proposed deal to do business with China, and 10% would be reserved for the big guy, and everybody seems to think that's Vice President Biden.
No, they don't. Much more lasting and lucrative arrangement to create a holding company, 50% owned by me and 50% owned by him. My understanding is the original agreement with the director was for consulting fees based on introductions alone, a rate of $10 million per year for 3-year guarantee total of $30 million. The chairman changed the deal after we met in Miami to a much more lasting and lucrative arrangement to create a holding company, 50%. And I'm glad about the capitalization. I think it was nice of Hunter to capitalize the criminal parts, apparently. To create a holding company, 50% owned by me. That's from Robert Biden. Okay. To subject RE to these 4 other people, which we don't have. I haven't seen the reference documents for those other people. But apparently he was comfortable enough to send it to 5 other people in email form. I would like to see their copies and compare them. See how this works? Consulting fees is one. I have to say it's a bit of an overreach from me because who would go to this much trouble to subvert the U.S. government? Who would go to this much trouble to guarantee someone sympathetic to them would run the U.S. government and stop the person who wouldn't be sympathetic to them from getting in position? Who would bother to fake this kind of thing? I know people forge checks for $50, but who would go through the process, right? All right, income stream. But the reason this proposal by the chairman was so much more interesting to me and my family is that we would also be partners in Partners In. That's apparently a hotel you stay at. In the equity and profits of the JV investments. Oh, and the equity and profits of the JV investments. So the 50% that goes to him of the $10 million for 3 guaranteed total, $30 million to a much more last. So basically, instead of paying for introducing them to investments, basically saying, like, we're going to go work in Ukraine or we're doing these oil and gas things and we'll take your money and introduce it to these. That's what the introductions are, by the way. It's not, hi, nice to meet you. It's, hey, I've got $10 million or $8 million I want to put into this, and your company oversees $1 million, for $1 million, you oversee the 9, and I hopefully will see 50 out of it. That's, I mean, if you had a business degree and you wore a tie for a living, you might know that, Greg Kelly. Hence, I assumed the reason for our discussion today, in which we make clear that the chairman would first get his investment capital return in the profits, would then be split 50-50. Okay, so the chairman would first get his investment capital returned. In the profits would then I guess was it that's both he'd get his money back, then the profits would be split 50-50. If you're saying that is not the case, then please return to us the original deal, $10 million per year guaranteed 3 years plus bonus payments for any successful deal we introduce. Let's discuss. Thank you. Right. So remember that whole thing about introductions? Yeah, that's so you can meet. I'm going to introduce you to Bill Gates. I'm going to introduce you to, the Rothschilds or George Soros or some shit. The introductions they're talking about, it's in the friggin' email they're talking about, by the way. If you're saying that is not the case, like I thought we were going to split the profits from these investments 50-50. You give us $10 million a year. We'll invest it for you. If it makes 12, we'll take 1, you take 11. You get your money back and the extra, and we'll split it 50-50. If not, then we'll, which means, by the way, this $10 million a year was for deals that are $100 or $200 million. If you don't want to split the $200 million profit 50-50 for the projects we're introducing you to, then we'll just go back to the guidance that we'll just be your accountant for some of your shit, and you'll pay us a flat fee of $10 million. Because the investments are going to introduce you to will either riskier than that or will be less than the $10 million a year, and we're not going to guide your $250 million investments a year in all these different areas for less than, 3%. I mean, honestly, are we seeing anything besides a business deal here? He even says the introductions, the original, and they've been talking about this shit for a long time, was for consulting less based on introductions alone, a rate of $10 million a year, okay? And then at the bottom, it says, if not, then we'll go back to the original deal per guarantee of 3 years plus bonus payments for any successful deal we introduce. They're introducing deals for them to make money on. These are investors. They shepherd investments. That's what they did at what was the name?
Burisma.
Right, that company. That's what they did there. You give us your money, we'll invest it in Burisma, we'll sit here, you pay us a fee to watch it, it will get invested, you keep the profits, and we get a fee. Jesus.
Former Vice President Biden at that point. Also, there's all kinds of...
There's all kinds of math I don't understand, and businesses and shit.
Pleasantness in there, photos and, hunters, adventures around the world. But we have to emphasize this. Newsmax has not investigated this. We're reading the material from the...
Yeah, Newsmax is lying. Newsmax is bullshitting you. Newsmax is presenting this as evidence and then saying, we don't know, we're just taking Rudy's word for it. But if you don't, you probably hate Trump and you're only watching this because you want confirmation bias.
From the New York Post, Rudy Giuliani.
From the New York Post. Fuck off. Rudy gave it to them and told them what was in it and didn't give them the whole hard drive. He didn't give them the whole thing. He wouldn't. They asked for it.
Giuliani is the president's attorney. He's also America's mayor.
No, he's not. No, he was New York's mayor for a little while. He's not America's mayor. America's mayor is Pete Buttigieg. Thank you. Because not only was he fixing roads and potholes in Indiana, he's going to be fixing them all over the country. He is literally being America's mayor. Pete Buttigieg, I salute you, America's mayor. The Honorable Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
made these allegations. He's looked at the hard drive.
Yeah, it's his fault. If something happens later, if they raid somebody's house, don't raid Greg Kelly's house. Raid Rudy's house.
And we all think that this needs to be looked into. Unfortunately, too much of the media will not. I wonder why that is.
Because they've looked into it, and they can't. Why is Stuttering John calling me right now? I'm on the air. Hold on. Dude.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm streaming right now. What are you doing?
Ah, shit. Are you,
I'll call you back.
are you free tomorrow?
Possibly. Let's talk. I'll call you back. Because I have regular family FaceTime and rehearsals, and I might have another rehearsal because we're getting close. We have shows next week. So everybody's saying put you on the stream and say hi, and this is as close as I can get, is you on my iPad. So say hi.
I thought you streamed at 3 o'clock.
I am East Coast.
No, I know. But so you're going up against me, man.
Well, I started later yesterday because of that. We'll talk. I'm only on the East Coast temporarily. This is for our regular plan. Leave me alone. I got rehearsals. I'm doing 12th night, for Christ's sake, man.
I know you.
All right.
I'm only kidding, Hal.
All right, I know. I'll talk to you later. Are you a gambling man? Do you
What's that?
are you a gambling man? Do you gamble on things that give you an erection? I'm asking for a friend. Talk to you later.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye.